Fiona, I'm so glad to have you on this podcast. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Jackie. How are you?
Good, good. I just thought you would be perfect to come on and talk about all things wisdom, or rather applying wisdom, because you're so open about your own path through life and what it takes and your reflections about yourself in all aspects. And we were just talking about running and how running applies to life and vice versa. Um, and so, I mean, I wanted to start with you talking about the big R word, responsibility, and um, people, or how they react in stress, and perhaps deflecting responsibility.
Yes. Yes. So I think that idea of personal responsibility is one of the most empowering concepts we can really embrace, not only in life in general, but when we're going through a challenging situation in our life where we might be experiencing disharmony or conflict with people around us, is actually bringing it back to what is my role and responsibility in this situation? Because ultimately, that's the only thing I have any control over. I might be able to influence other things. I might be able to have an impact on other things, but I cannot control a thing that is outside of me.
Yeah, so true. And haven't we so learnt it over the last few years, particularly with COVID? We thought we had far more control over things than we did. And it's really put us back in our box a little bit to understand what we truly have control over. And I mean, you've been through so many transitions in your life as well, to be able to reflect on in terms of, okay, well, how much control did I have here? How did I behave here? How could I do that better? And the self-reflection, to then be able to apply some intent about how you behave. It's just, it can be so liberating.
That is the perfect word for it. One of the things I teach is this idea called the circle of responsibility, which is basically where you literally stand up and you point your pointer finger out and you draw a circle around yourself. And then you're responsible for everything in that circle. So you're responsible for your thoughts, you're responsible for your belief system, you're responsible for the way you feel, you're responsible for your emotions, you're responsible for what you put in your mouth, you're responsible for how you feel, how you react, how you respond. You're responsible for what you let into that circle, but equally you are responsible for what you release from that circle, like what goes out of that circle in terms of your behavior, the words you say, what you do. But everybody is standing in their own little circle of responsibility. And in each of those circles of responsibility, everyone's responsible for themselves. But of course, we no man is an island, as they say. So we're always connecting with other people. But when we can all be standing in our circle of responsibility, like nobody can make me think the way I think. Nobody can make me feel. Nobody can make me angry. Nobody can make me sad. That's my decision to respond or react to an input that's coming into my circle. That's my responsibility. So what happens when we start to do that is that when we are potentially in situations of conflict or disharmony with the world around us, we are able to take that ownership. It's very empowering about, where I am now is I'm struggling with it. I'm feeling like I'm in a toxic environment, or I'm feeling like I'm being abused, or I'm feeling like I'm being treated unfairly, is actually bringing that back into that circle of responsibility and going, how am I attracting this? How am I contributing towards it? How am I participating, being part of this exchange? Because an exchange cannot happen in isolation. So if there's two people involved in anything, each of those people are 100% involved. They might not like that, or they might not want to own that or admit that. But as soon as you do, that's when you take that power back and you go, well, actually, if I am involved in this and contributing to this, I have the power to change that. Like, I can't change what the other person is or isn't doing, but I get to choose how I show up, how I conduct myself, how I care, show compassion, am forgiving, understanding of other people that might be involved in this situation. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the liberating piece too, isn't it? Because it can be so confronting to realize, actually, I have contributed to this. I am responsible. I'm not just a passive victim in this situation, because you're like, oh my God, like, what have I done to myself? But at the same time, then you're like, and I have the power to change it.
In this present moment. And it's really important to acknowledge here, I think, Jackie, as well, taking responsibility is not the same as taking blame.
No.
So it's not about going, it's their fault or my fault. It's just about, okay, we are in this situation now. What is the best next step forward for me to shift myself from where I am, so I don't feel like I am being affected so negatively by this? And, you know, I need to become aware of myself in the present moment. I need to become aware of what I'm thinking. I need to become aware of how I'm feeling. I need to become aware of how I'm behaving. I can change all of those things. But I cannot change what another person is doing. That's not my responsibility. That is theirs. I can inspire them. I can lead them. I can support them. I can do all of those things, but their responsibility is their responsibility. But as you do that, it's the most extraordinary thing, Jackie. People, it's like they fall into line behind you, like ducks in a row, because nobody really ultimately wants conflict.
No.
They're scared, they're frightened, they want to be in control, they feel afraid that they're not in control. So people behave in ways that are perhaps not their best, you know, it's not their best perspective. But fundamentally, we're all just muddling on through this life. And I personally don't think anybody's inherently bad.
No.
And when we can come at it from that perspective, as, you know, another person is reacting, how can I maybe think a bit more generously about what might be going on for them, how they might be feeling, and how can I kind of adapt myself to that rather than being adversarial in that situation. And honestly, if you're feeling like someone's being really adversarial, I can guarantee you are also being adversarial.
Yeah, that's right, because it does, it mirrors, doesn't it?
Correct.
Mirrors back. And so we can practice being more self-aware and having that little pause before reacting in the little moments in our lives, you know, dealing with kids and colleagues and those sort of things that aren't a massive conflict. And yet, when you do get into these massive life transformational times, whether it be leaving an employment role in an unhealthy way, leaving a relationship, or having a difficult death in a family, all these major life events can just completely throw out the window all these little practices that we try and put in place. So it's a huge question. How do we self-regulate that? How do we make sure that all the things that we learn are actually available for us in the hard moments when it counts?
So this goes back a little bit to that point, that conversation we were having before about running and about, you know, training for an endurance event, and this awareness that I'd had about, you know, to train for an endurance event, I need to do endurance training. And if you can apply that to life, so, you know, all the stuff that sort of the work that I do with myself and with all of my clients, we have to build the solid foundations for ourselves in life so that we are not completely thrown off kilter when the thing that is called life happens, right? Life is a series of obstacles and challenges to be overcome. That is the nature of life. And we go, oh, I've been thrown this curveball or this disaster's happened. It's like, no, it's just your life. Like, and if we can come at it from that bit more higher perspective, you know, there's going to be great things, exciting things, happy things that happen. There's going to be sad things. There's going to be really difficult, traumatic things that happen in my life. These are all, this is the rich tapestry of what makes life life. Like, you look at anybody's life, everybody has challenges, right? We get through those challenges when we have done the groundwork and built solid foundations for ourselves in our life through the practices of self-care, through looking after ourselves, through meditation, through journaling, through understanding who we are, through in those times when we might not be going through such challenging times, spending some time to get to know and understand who we are, how we tick, what goes on, so that when we do go through those more challenging times, we not only have the foundation, like with the inner strength, the physical strength, the mental strength, the emotional strength, the spiritual strength to be able to navigate those times more healthily, but we've also got the tools to be able to do that as well, to be able to self-regulate, to not necessarily get to that state of it's all out of control in the first place, because you're managing your life better anyway. And that's in things like time management, in stress management, in prioritization, in goal setting, in all of those things. So you don't actually get to that point of completely, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that's ever happened and I don't know how I'm going to survive it. You don't get to that point in the first place. Or if you do, you are able to react, but then pause and go, hang on a minute. Let's just look at this from another perspective. So it's very difficult when you're in the heat of the moment to remember all, it's like the best laid plans literally fly out the window. But when you have practiced being more intentional and balanced and harmonious within yourself in your life for a period of time, you can manage those circumstances better.
And as you said earlier, like just knowing yourself better and know how you tick, so that you do know what to apply, or you know how you tend to react, and be much more aware of that.
100%. And I think also too, like if you look at people whose lives are surrounded by drama, right? There's drama everywhere. So when things happen, things, aka life happens, it's always drama. So generally people who have, it's just life is hectic. There's always stuff going on. Blah, 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 blah. They generally don't have much clarity around their vision, their values, their life. Probably don't have very strong boundaries, both in terms of the way they manage themselves in their lives, but also too in terms of their interactions with other people. So there's often a lot of conflict and drama anyway, because that person's not respecting me, that person's not doing this for me, blah, 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 blah. But it's like there's no boundary. And if there is, maybe it hasn't been communicated properly. And again, that goes back to the self and, that sense of well-being and balance within ourselves. So it's having the ability to go, you know what, I want to be fit and conditioned for life. And that's about being mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, socially balanced and connected. I know who I am. I make time for myself. I prioritize for myself. It's like enlightened self-interest so that I can show up better in my life and have better quality of relationships with the world around me, because I have a better quality of relationship with myself.
Yeah. And coming back to responsibility as well, for those people who do seem to have a lot of drama in their lives, understand that, how they're contributing or creating or attracting, or, to be honest, whether they actually like it.
What are they getting out of it, right?
Yeah.
And this is not a place of judgment or blame or anything. Like my program that was formed in childhood is a victim program, right? So I feel like it's anytime I get into a situation that is of conflict, I have to work really hard to just go, okay, this is not personal. It is not about me. My program is making this about me. So when I'm low in energy, I'm much more likely to react in a way that is a victim, right? Woe is me, poor me. It's nothing like it used to be. But, I've had to do so much work around understanding myself and gaining that awareness, because my job is to just keep reminding myself it's not personal.
No.
And I am empowered and I'm not a victim, and I don't have to look at my life through the lens of being a victim. So, I don't gossip, don't talk about other people behind their back. I really I truly, genuinely try to give people the benefit of the doubt, look at them, they are just doing their best. And it's not my job to judge them. My job is to focus on how I can be better.
And hence then, if that's the focus, when you are navigating life, you've got a higher intention, I guess, behind it too, haven't you? You've got, well, I know how I don't want to show up. And when that shows up, I know how I prefer to show up. I have the intent that I'll get through this with grace rather than in misery and victimhood, or rather than in blame and shame. Let's have the intention to be greater.
And there's some really simple practices that we can apply here as well. Like, they really are simple. And I mean, it's almost like we think they're too simple.
Yeah.
But, you know, things like gratitude, acceptance, forgiveness, just being present. But also to this idea of, you know, it's quite metaphysical, and we obviously don't have a long time here to discuss this, but this idea that we are the creators of our own reality through the way we think, the way we feel, and the way we behave, basically. So what I think and feel and behave in this present moment is creating future present moments for myself. So the longer I am angry, blaming, being a victim, annoyed, all the rest of it, I'm literally just creating more things in my life in the future to be angry, annoyed, ashamed, whatever about, right? I don't like feeling like that. I like to feel good, not from a hedonistic viewpoint, but I like to feel good. So, okay, I'm going to give myself, like even last week, I've got this thing that I've, you know, book that I've got coming out.
Yes.
And oh
Yay.
my gosh, all my stuff got shown up, you know, and, you know, nobody cares. You know, people are going to have a problem with me. I need people's approval to be able to get this out. Like, oh, I'm like, what is going on? So like a day and a half of just feeling so shit, so bad. And then I'm like, I don't need to feel like this. So that's right. I don't need to feel like this anymore. So even, you know, I teach this stuff. I've got business around it. I still go through it. Like, it's like accepting that that is the human experience, but we get to choose. I get to choose. The cup is half, you know, is it half full? Is it half empty? Well, it's both, right? But we get to choose if I see it as half full or half empty.
Yes.
So I was in bed, half empty, you know, literally doonas over my head going, just make this whole thing go away. I don't want to deal with any of it. To being able to get up and go, you know, as I said to you before, oh yeah, that's right. This is just another thing I'm doing in life. Like, I've just made it into such a big drama. It doesn't need to be drama. It's just a thing that I'm doing. Like, it's the same thing I'm thinking about, but I've just decided to think about it differently. And therefore I think about it differently. I feel differently. I'm going to behave differently in a much more empowered way.
Perfect segue. Tell us about your book.
Okay, so it's called It Is Possible, Letting Go of Who You Think You Are to Create the Life of Your Dream.
Yes, perfect.
I know. So this was an idea I had. I've known for a long time I was going to write a book. Like, I've always been a good writer. But, you know, I had to get help because I was procrastinating and not getting it done. I was like, okay, drama. It doesn't need to be drama. Let's get some help. So I got some help with that. So basically the idea of this book was, you know, I mean, I know you know the story, Jackie, I don't know if you listen to it, but about 10 years ago, I went through an experience in my life where basically absolutely everything in my life imploded in a really short space of time. Like, it was nothing was going right. And I kind of had to learn how to turn that around, you know, relationship breakdown, single parenthood, homelessness, no money, startup business, hadn't been able to get a job, unfit, unhealthy, nothing was going. And so I started to learn what I could do to turn that around. And then during COVID, I had to pivot my business. And I applied everything that I had learned. And, you know, during COVID, people had different experiences during COVID. And this is that point about responsibility, right? The same thing was happening in the external world for everyone.
Yeah.
So how did some people get through it okay and other people didn't? Because they just had a different relationship to that event that was going on. That is an excellent example, actually, of how this circle of responsibility plays out. You know, some people were angry with the government, angry with this, angry with that, blah, 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 blah.
Yep,
I didn't have the capacity to do that because I was so busy just trying to keep things going. But that was actually really an empowering way to live, because I'm like, oh, there's an opportunity here for me in this environment. Anyway, so this book kind of landed in my head one day when I was out working, the title and the book, and it supported a program that I just created that when I had to do to pivot my business online. And so it's taken me 3 years, but the intention behind it was that somebody could go to the library who is in really deep trouble in their life and borrow this book and have hope and the tools that they needed to begin to create the change in their life. But of course, the principles are universal and anybody can read it. So that was really the idea of it. It just had this really, because so many people had left breadcrumbs for me, and I had been able to access so many free resources and books and just people generously sharing of themselves and what they did and how I could apply that to my own life. So I had this vision that I wanted somebody to be able to go to library, buy this book or borrow this book and read it. It was just freely accessible for people. So as part of the launch strategy or whatever to get it out, I'm basically doing this pay it forward. So if somebody buys a copy of the book and lets me know that they've bought it, so they tag me in it or something like that, because I'm like, well, I'm not a publicist, I'm not a marketer. How am I going to get this book out there? I'm like, we can all do this together. I will donate a copy of the book to a library in Australia. There's 1,707 libraries in Australia in their name.
Oh, wonderful. What a great idea.
But that's an idea. So this is kind of what happens when we're balanced within ourselves. We get these inspired ideas and we have the confidence to be able to take action on them as well. And that's that's how the whole thing about the book of it is about. It's like, well, what's the greatest vision or dream that you've got for your life? Like I wanted to have a harmonious relationship with my ex. And at the time of our separation, I hated him and I wanted to stab him in the eye with a fork. Like I really didn't like him. But then I had to go, well, do I like myself?
Yeah.
For me to have this level of hatred towards another person, I clearly don't have a whole lot of love for myself. So let's just turn that lens inwards and build myself up so that I can love other people. And doing that, you get to see how difficult it is to change, how difficult it is to face up to yourself and your darkness and your weakness. And it gives you more compassion for other people in their struggle. And that level of connection and understanding is how you start to shift a relationship.
Yeah. And instead of looking back and looking at all the things that were wrong, looking forward and understanding what you actually want.
Yeah.
And you were parents together too. So what did you want for your kids?
Yeah.
Yeah. Powerful. Oh, it does. The book sounds like it's just, a safe place for someone to land who's struggling, or even just one of those reminders that you need when you actually know a lot of this stuff. But as you say, like it's simple, but it's not easy. Is that the term? Yeah, simple, but not easy. Because it is just gratitude, presence, forgiveness, self-awareness. But it's not easy.
No. And
but nor does it have to be hard. Nor does it have to be hard.
But, I think the thing that is actually hard about it, and, like I've been working, with people on myself, as I said, with people for about 10 years now. And I this really is, if you look at core values and stuff, like this idea of self-mastery is probably one of my highest values in life. The activities are not hard. The consistency is. And I think one of the things that I've really come to acknowledge as being important is that if we truly, truly want to change, we have to have a really compelling why, but we also need accountability. And it's okay to ask for help and to have help, because it's very challenging to do this stuff on our own. And the other thing is too, we really are blind to our own weaknesses, and we need other people, like the world is our mirror, to show us who and what we are.
Yeah.
And that's very challenging. And often the people who are the most difficult in your life are your greatest teachers and the people that you need to be the most grateful for, because they are showing you something difficult about yourself. And you can either choose to work on that, or you can choose to blame them for that. But if you keep blaming them for that, you're going to keep attracting that. And that's just the way it is. It's not about agreeing with it. It's just about accepting it.
Yeah. And that could take us down another rabbit hole too, in terms of having the right support around you and where to find the support and where not to find support, but being respectful of your time. So tell us where they can find support from your community.
Oh, well, if anybody would like to connect with me, they can go to thehappinesshunter.com. Or I'm on all the socials, and I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm probably most active actually now on my personal profile on Facebook. So come and find me. Just search up Fiona Redding on Facebook. You can find me there. And just, I just I just feel really strongly that we all do deserve to be happy. And, they say, Jackie, like, we are the sum total of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And it's really important to surround yourself with people who are living a similar values-based life. I think it really does come down to values is important. There needs to be a values match. Otherwise, you can go down wrong paths.
Yeah, that's right.
That
And
aren't meant for you.
yeah, and you can pick and choose and curate the communities and the people around you to help build and create what you want as well, can't you? Because again, we have responsibility for creating our own experience.
100%. I was going to say actually also too on that, I mean, there is the Happiness Hunter podcast people can look at, but if anybody's in Melbourne, I run a free community walk with the Happiness Hunter every Friday morning at 9:00 in Black Rock. And we've got people come out from all over Melbourne for that. So any of your listeners would be more than welcome to come along and try that out as well. And you can find out more information about that through the happiness-hunter.com website.
Yeah, that is a great initiative. And I love seeing the photos that you post of the groups, particularly on really cold mornings where you're all rugged up, but looking so happy. It's great. And well done for putting out so much free content there too, because there is for those people who are, struggling in moments of their life, and maybe they have, just gone from dual income to single income, or lost a job, or struggling to find in the rental market or whatever, and they really need free stuff. It's somewhere to start again as well. So thank you for doing that too.
Oh, thanks, Jackie. And look, I really do feel like I have a moral obligation to pay forward a lot of what I know, because so much was shared with me when I really did not have the resources to pay for anything. And now I've got a business, I've got premium products that I sell. Like I sell a premium, premium-ish service, and I work corporately, and but I can still provide.
Certainly. Yeah. And as you said, it's paying it forward because you've learned so much. And I mean, you credit to you were the sponge that wanted to learn and change, because that's what's needed as well, isn't it?
Yeah, there has to be a desire, there has to be a will, and when there is a will, there is always a way. So if somebody wants to change, genuinely wants to change, and you take the first step, whatever that step is, the universe will rise up to meet you.
On that note, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Fiona, for your time. And everyone check out Fiona, go to her socials, and the book will be at all the good booksellers.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
Wonderful.